say we'll record on the computer. Okay, so we should be recording now. And really, I don't have, as I kind of mentioned in the announcements, I don't really have anything specific to go over, nor would I have anything necessarily specific to go over if we were face to face. All of this is just a matter of trying to adapt to what the school allows us to do. And so, as I mentioned, I'm sure there are some of you who are relieved to be on Zoom because you're like, why am I gonna have to make it up to campus, or I'm not gonna go to campus and feel like I'm missing out. I know there are some of you who definitely were looking forward to it, and probably maybe most of us are in between, just to say, well, that's just another one of those things, how it goes. But just so you kind of know, if things were normal, our normal hybrid class would meet once a week for about 2.5 hours, or 2 hours and 45 minutes. And we would meet in a lab and we would go over questions. We would do a lab activity. We would do our exams. We would do all of these normal group project things in class. As I came to learn is that due with the COVID restrictions, we weren't going to be meeting in a lab classroom. We obviously weren't going to do lab activities because that required you to be closer than 6 feet with each other. And we couldn't require attendance, which means I couldn't do exams or anything else worth any points. And it would only be an hour and 15 minutes. And so all of this to say is that us meeting face to face would still not be like a normal lecture, and all of these things that we could do face to face we can do over Zoom. But that of course means that one less reason that you have to get out of your house and kind of experience something different. But especially now that we are, I guess, 2 weeks in, kind of about to start week 3 in class, I think everybody is getting kind of the hang of the online environment. I can tell just by the way that of kind of how emails are, that people are getting everything sorted out and figured out. You've got into the assignments. But let me just open it up first to any questions. And I guess I'll start this off and say, here are my expectations when we Zoom. As I've already said, Zooms, I'm going to record them. They're not required for attendance. It's just, I want you to know that you have a time available to ask questions for me to lecture in any way that I can, or ask whatever questions that you have. But then also remember, if this time doesn't work for you, maybe you're making a big time sacrifice just to attend right now, or of course you're watching this later because you can't make this time, just know that reach out to me and we can figure out a time to meet. I am usually doing most of my work. For those of you who have sent me emails and gotten emails back, you probably get my responses sometime after 7:30 at night. And so I can always Zoom in or fit in another time during the day. But when we Zoom, you turning on your video monitor is totally optional. It is nice just to see someone's face as they talk, but believe me, I totally understand that the reason that you Zoom is so you can just mute yourself, turn off your video, and still scroll Facebook and just kind of passively hear whatever it is that I have to say. So totally optional there. And then if you have a question, feel free to just unmute yourself. Or I guess let me say it this way first. If you're not speaking, keep yourself muted so you don't pick up any background noise. And if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and just speak. Let me know, or I'll be checking the chat as well. So if you have a question there. So let me just start off just as kind of a general, opening here. Do you have any questions, any comments, anything that you want me to address that you're worried about, anything that you just want to say to me in person that we can have a discussion on before we get even into some content stuff? So just any questions on the course, the syllabus, anything like that.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will we be having like is this going to be like a weekly lecture, or is this just for us to come like last semester when I took you for A&P1, just to come here for questions?
So it will not be, let's see, it will not be a scheduled, hey, here's lecture, because I'm going to do this Zoom just like I would do our face-to-face class, which, like I was kind of talking about, my lectures are all created in the time frame that we have at least 2 hours and 45 minutes to go over the stuff each week, which if you were taking, gosh, it seems like so long ago that I had just a normal hybrid class. If you were to have taken my regular hybrid class, say starting this time last year, I don't lecture at all. Let me switch over. Let's see, saying my internet connection is unstable. So, and I'm sorry too if my audio kind of keeps cutting in and out. So just feel free to obviously put in the chat if something's going on. Like this time last year, my normal hybrid class, I don't lecture in those either. You do your learning objectives, you show up with questions, I go over whatever questions you need, I lecture as needed. So if you want me to lecture on something, I will lecture on it. And then we would do some sort of group activity. Well, obviously, we're just going to do kind of the first half, which is, hey, come here with questions. I just want you to know you do have access to me. Certain topics, I will have maybe a brief introduction, but don't expect to have a full hour and 15-minute lecture on a topic. So think of this as, okay, you've done the work. Here are the questions that you have, and I'll be happy to lecture on anything that you need, that you bring up. Any other kind of general questions that you have just on the class? Is everybody getting the hang of it, getting everything figured out? Or does anybody have still any kind of technical issues that you are working out?
I do have one question. So as far as the test, I don't know if you said it already, but I know in the syllabus it says like it'll be a mixture of fill in the blanks and multiple choice and short answer.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say like majority of the tests are?
The majority will be multiple choice. And it depends on, because let's see, your first exam is coming up, I guess, the end of this week, and I haven't even written it yet, so I couldn't even tell you specifically what to look forward to. But I want you to think of your exams in this class as still, I guess let me say those. Don't think of your exams and plan on them being, okay, well, the exam I'm just going to take on Saturday, like it's this one day as if you were taking it face to face. Is that depending on the chapter or the chapters that are included on the exam, you may have some multiple choice questions in Canvas just due to the way that I can ask questions in Canvas and different policies that I can do in Canvas. You may have some questions in Connect because Connect has a lot of pictures. It has a lot of other things that I can do. And you may even have some questions that I give you that you work in your own time and turn in to me before the due date for the exam. But for the most part, the majority of your questions will be multiple choice on the test. So short answer and fill in the blank will be kind of added in as needed or as necessary to cover the material. And all of that, I know that that's a very unsatisfying response just because it doesn't tell you exactly what to prepare for, say, for this exam coming up. But I will, in plenty of time, give you all of the instructions to say, okay, part 1 of the exam is taken in Canvas, and here's what you need to do. Part 2 is taken in Connect, and here's what you need to do, and the due dates. So everything in this class, I want every assignment in this class, while I want it to be challenging, I don't want it to be just something that is this stress-inducing, oh my gosh, I have to just cram the night before and then take it. I want things to, if I can, I like for exams, I like for you to have multiple attempts, or at least on some part of it, just like how your homework is, just like how your quizzes are. I think repetition is the best way that you have to learn this material, and not you just taking a traditional test that you get one attempt and it's like, well, good luck, and then you never get to see your answers, and so there really wasn't any benefit to you and you never were really able to learn. So I'm always like to try to do some creative things with the exams. Creative always limited by something that doesn't inconvenience you unnecessarily, because a lot of teachers can say we did something creative and you're like, well, I was not prepared for that. So I want everything to be for your benefit in learning this material.
I have a question.
Yep.
I have in one class the Learn Smart is optional, but in your class it's not, correct?
Well, as I always say, every assignment in this class is optional. The grade you receive, however, is not optional. So yes, you have in your syllabus, what do you have? 11 Learn Smarts at 5 points each, I think. So I think it's around 50-ish points, 55 points for the Learn Smart to complete.
And all of the tests are going to be proctored, right? Like we did with that practice proctored one?
I haven't decided yet. Once again, you may have a portion that is proctored. You know, hopefully I'm not recording this and going to post it so anybody else can watch. But between us, I hate proctored exams. I hate everything about them. I'm just thankful that as a student, I never really had to take a proctored exam. It stresses me out too much. It stresses me out as the faculty member, because I just worry that I may have made a mistake, or technology just screws everything up. And then, like I said, your one attempt at no fault of your own got messed up because the proctoring didn't work. And then I have to figure out, okay, well, you need an extension on the assignment, but everybody else didn't get an extension and they turned it in yesterday. And I try to not, but you may have a portion of the exam that is proctored.
Sorry. The first
and I will say,
really heavy.
you are recording, so don't post it anywhere.
No, I'm kidding. I'm happy to stand by my opinion. No, I don't like it. I think it's too stressful. Exams are stressful enough as it is. And I like to believe that I am a good enough test question writer that I can test your knowledge in other ways rather than just being the big brother that watches over you to do whatever it's supposed to do. Okay, Jaden, you had a question?
Okay, yeah. You said that our first exam is at the end of this week, correct?
I think so. Let me see.
I couldn't remember, like, I don't have my
I think
binder
it's the
to look.
29th.
Yeah, let's see. I do have your schedule somewhere around here. Yes, so it will open the 29th, chapters 1, 5, and 6, and you will have until Wednesday to do it. But once again, depending on which portions of the exam, depending on how I write it, you may have slightly different due dates on certain things. Listen, I like writing exams, and so I'm pretty looking forward to what I can come up with. And so, like I said, it will all be very clear. And I do think, at least if, well, there are some of you who took me for ANP1 last semester, and I can't even remember now. I think I changed some of your policies a little differently depending on which exam it was. It is always my preference to do things that will benefit you. And as much as I would rather be face-to-face, if I'm gonna be online, I might as well use the tools in the benefit that they give us, which is, you know, like multiple attempts. I get a big pool of questions. You get a few of those questions, kind of like how I did. So obviously, if you took me for ANP1, your quizzes are done differently this semester than they were done last semester. Your quizzes are worth more. It's a smaller amount of questions, but I give you unlimited attempts on them. So to kind of reward you for, once again, putting in the work. So maybe you didn't do so hot the first time, but you can take it a lot of other times. Interestingly, I was looking at, I think this was in your section, it may have been in my AMP1 section, how many attempts people took on the quiz, the first quiz. And it's like, there are some people who got a 10 out of 10 the first attempt, so obviously they didn't take it again. There are some people who took it 7 or 8 times, some people who took it 3 or 4 times, so everybody's kind of finding their own way on those quizzes. And that's part of the learning process here, figuring out how the flow of the course. Anything else, like I said, syllabus or course related that you have?
Well,
Okay, so
Let's see, who did I hear? I heard somebody first. Let's see, Haley, I heard you talk, but somebody, who else was speaking? I'll go with you. I think it was a new voice.
Yeah, that was me. I'm Lindsay.
Okay, Lindsay, go ahead.
So part of the reason why I signed up, at least for the in-person part, was to get hands-on experience with models because I'm very kinesthetic. Is there any kind of open lab times that have limited amount of people in the room that they're doing on campus?
And so I'm glad you said, because I meant to say this, and maybe I did. I think I did in the announcement. We weren't going to have access to models anyway, face to face. As of September, when I said, hey, I would like to teach a hybrid class in the spring, my assumption is that we would have models. Like, in a sense, why else would you go to campus if we couldn't do the unique things that we have campus for? But as it ended up, the models are in the lab rooms. We weren't going to be able to move the models into the classrooms just for all sorts of reasons. So unfortunately, no. Which is why for our class, we're doing this over Zoom, and then nobody else, even those who still are meeting on campus, aren't having models. So you're not missing out there. The closest, and I know that this is not hands-on, but I'm saying the closest that you have is I've given you some of those questions in Connect from the practice anatomy lab. No, not practice anatomy, what is it? I can see it.
visible body is really good for, like, as far as seeing it visually.
Yeah, so you can do the visible body free trial, and then APR, Anatomy and Physiology Revealed, which is similar to visible body. And then I've given you some of the questions that you have from Connect that are pictures of models that you can go through and look at the labels. Like I said, I know it's not hands-on. I wish that we could do it hands-on, but just, you're not missing out just because we're doing this on Zoom. And so even had we still been meeting on campus, you still wouldn't have been able to use the models. So that's not disappointing to you personally, but not a change in access anyway.
And if that ever does change during this semester, will you post on Canvas any open lab times?
I would be happy to. I definitely will. That is probably unlikely to happen, but of course I will always keep you updated on that, because I would love to be able to I'd love to be able to meet even just briefly for that type of access.
So thank you so much. That was all I was asking for. Awesome.
Yeah.
All I was gonna ask was if I know you said you didn't have like the test written yet or anything, but generally about how many questions do you have per test? Like, is it with the like with the learning outcomes that we do, or is it more than that? Or
Let's see, in this class, your exams are, I think each one is 100 points. I cannot minimize that while I am recording the meeting. Okay, so I can't easily go find my syllabus. I think each exam is 100 points. What I am thinking about is that you will have a portion of your exam will be take home multiple choice questions. This will be similar, for those of you who took A and P1, this will be similar to your multiple choice questions that you had that were the practice exams. I gave you a list of multiple choice questions and you posted your answers. There were kind of a couple little policy things there, but give you some, what I would say are some very challenging multiple choice questions, like 7 different options that you have to go through. And so those would be, let's say if I give you something, oh yeah, and I was looking, y'all are 22, 24. Sorry, I said chapters 1, 5, and 6. Y'all are obviously A and P2. And your test is 17 and 18 starting on Friday. So if there's 2 chapters, I like to do about 10 questions per chapter. So that would be 20 multiple choice questions. And with 20, you know, maybe I'd have them at like 2 points each. So then that's 40 points. So then you'd have 60 points left over, and maybe that would be another 30 multiple choice questions, either in Connect or in Canvas, something like that. So probably unlikely to have, it'd still be probably around 50 multiple choice, 50 questions-ish around there. And a lot depends on, in Connect, I like to do the exams in Connect because I get a lot of question options in Connect, but unfortunately Connect is not necessarily consistent into how many multiple choice questions they have for each chapter. So one chapter may only have 20 questions. Well, if I give you, say, multiple attempts and I give you 15, well, you kind of max out pretty quickly. So I would rather lessen the number of multiple choice questions so that you can have multiple attempts and encounter more stuff that way. So there is some variability in that, but I would say around 50-ish, you know, give or take a little bit, just depending on what else I want to add. If I add in a short answer question, well, I like for my short answer questions to be about 6 points. And so if I do 2 short answer, that's 12 points. Well, 12 out of 100 points is going to mean that I have to do less multiple choice questions. So it just kind of varies, but I can tell you that whenever I get this first exam written, I like to keep things pretty similar. So however I end up doing this the first time is probably going to be pretty predictable for how we'll be moving forward.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's move into, so this would be a good, if you've done your learning objectives, now that you have done chapter 18 and you're kind of right, chapter 17, and you're kind of right in the middle of chapter 18. So obviously your quiz will open this afternoon. Your homework will close at 5, and then your quiz will open, and you'll have that until Wednesday. This is a good chance, if you've been doing your learning objectives or any questions that you had when you're doing the homework, this is a good chance to say, hey, like, I'm really still struggling with this concept. And before I kind of open it up for questions, just as a study note that I highly recommend everybody do is what I call keeping a study journal or a study diary. And this is something like a notebook, a sheet of paper, something that you have that you're not necessarily putting notes in, but just like a diary, you are making comments on your studying and on your preparation. So as you're doing the homework, you have your little study diary there next to you, and you get to a question on the homework that you just don't even really understand. Well, right then in your notebook, put, I really struggled with Connect homework, chapter 17, question 2, and it said this. And then you can refer back to it. Maybe the next day, just, you know, our brains, after you get a good night's sleep, our brains kind of work better. So maybe the next day you do the question again, you go, oh, it makes perfect sense. Well, now you have an actual record to say, you can cross it off and say, okay, I understand this now. And if you still don't, you can ask me questions. And so this study diary is really good for working through when we can have either our kind of class Zoom like we're doing now, or if you ever have a one-to-one Zoom, it's easy to say, hey, let me go through my diary here and you can help me on these questions. And so I always think about, like, at the end of every day after you've done homework or you've studied, you would say, dear diary, I really struggled with blood typing in chapter 18. I just don't understand anything about it. I'm going to try again tomorrow, and maybe watching this YouTube video will help. And so it becomes something that you can always refer back to and then say, oh, I really liked this YouTube video, and here's why, because you're putting your own thoughts on paper. And that's also a good way to learn, because you're seeing what you didn't know, you're now seeing what you did know, and you're helping to write and kind of understand your thoughts. So all this to say, let me open it up to any questions that you have from chapter 17 or chapter 18 in terms of concepts or anything like that that you would like for me to go over. Or if you're finding it pretty straightforward, then certainly let me know. I did notice one thing I did want to say, and I posted the link in your modules, but I didn't do like an assignment with it. I think I did an assignment to link to my YouTube homepage, but I was just noticing on at least the number of views, which were pretty low. I do have on my YouTube homepage, or my YouTube channel, a video on the endocrine system, specifically learning what the study strategy I like to teach students with the endocrine system is teaching your how to write the hormone story. Where did it come from? Where does it go? What does it do when it gets there? And why did it leave in the first place? And so I would encourage everybody, especially in preparation for the exam coming up, to watch that hormone video, that endocrine hormone video that's on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to try to get another one on blood typing posted there. And if we have time, I'll do that lecture right now, and that will allow me to kind of two birds with one stone to record it. But as I said, I want to make sure that it's one thing for me to just lecture on any topic that I think is important or that students typically struggle with, but it's much more beneficial for you to tell me what you're struggling with so I can address that to you specifically. Okay. Yes, I just had a chat comment that yes, a YouTube video on blood typing. So I will, if I don't have time to do it now, I will definitely get that posted for later.
And you also include the, I mean, I kind of get the antigen antibody relation. It's just A, B, and O are mildly confusing when you bring in RH, positive and negative. So
yes,
will you also go into that?
I will. And the thing is, and I'll say this now, and then, and I'm happy to go through blood typing now, but I don't want to take up all of our time on something that I know I'm going to post a video on. But what I will say to that right now is that the concept behind each ABO or RH is exactly the same in terms of antigens and antibodies. You're attacking something else, but you just need to keep them separate in your brain, because they don't, other than just tacking on a positive or a negative to the A, B, or AB, they don't interact with each other. And so if you understand the core concept of ABO, of type A and type B, type AB, type O, excuse me, the concept is the same concept with RH, just have to kind of separate them. So I will definitely go over that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, at least, mainly it was in relation to first and second pregnancy where I got a little bit confused, but it's the whole AB and then negative, positive debate, but I'm not sure how far into that you're going to go because it wasn't really a big focus in the questions or in the book. So
Yeah,
I guess
and
partly I'm also asking if it's on the exam.
yes, it is. Oh, well, and of course, if you're getting a random selection of questions, you may or may not get those questions on the exam. So it just kind of depends on the luck of the draw. It is a concept that you do need to know, and I will touch on it in the lecture as well. And part of the reason that this is confusing is because if you look at the order that you're doing the chapters, which this is how the authors did it, you did endocrine first. Now we're doing, which I guess we skipped ahead for blood. No, let's see, 17 and 18. Yeah, so blood. Blood typing is fundamentally an immune system response, but you're not going to do the immune system here for another month. So you kind of have to have a basic understanding of the immune system to have any clue what's going on in blood typing. And so this is just since of course your human body, everything works together. As soon as you try to put things linearly, chapter by chapter, some things are not going to work out so nicely in terms of a learning progression. But when I do, whenever I do the video, either now or later, that's the first couple slides, is let's just understand the basics of the immune system. And then that will help you put all of the blood typing stuff in context.
So I guess for that blood typing video, you're also going to go more so into the leukocytes as well.
Well, I'm not going to go to specific leukocytes. One, just because in this chapter, it doesn't really matter. The blood does tell you about the different types of leukocytes, and you do need to know a basic understanding. And this is where I'll reference back to look at the homework questions that you had. Kind of, what is a neutrophil? What is a basophil? Basophils, release histamine, and these basics. You will go into much more depth to the different leukocytes when we get into the lymphatic and immune chapters. And so the only leukocyte that is important to blood typing is a B cell or a plasma cell because it's the one that releases antibodies. But you could still understand everything about different blood types without even mentioning the word leukocyte. So right now, it's not super important, a big emphasis to know leukocytes.
Hi, I just wanted to chime in really quickly since we're talking about blood types. I was a little confused on that as well. So I haven't finished the LOs yet, but there was a question on the Learn Smart where it was asking like type 8, like it was asking to match like the antigens and the antibodies with the blood type.
Yep.
And I guess I got a little confused as far as like when it gets to negative, because I think there was one answer where it said like O negative has anti-A antibodies, anti-B antibodies, and then RH antigen D. And then that's when I got like a little confused. So will that be included in the YouTube video?
Yeah, so I will go over that. And this is one of those things, of course, even in a video, I may not go over everything that you need, but at least the video gives you a starting point, and then always email me and we can go into more detail on the specifics because I don't want to overwhelm. I want the videos to be more or less, or my lectures to be more or less general. And then as you have your own questions off of that, you can always ask. So if I do the video and you go, okay, well, you touched on it, but I'm still confused, well, then email me and we can either, you and I can do another Zoom, or I can try to explain it in over email or something. So obviously there's a lot of questions on blood typing. So any non-blood typing content questions that you have, so I can address those, make sure that you can get sort of your content addressed over this Zoom. And then I'll be happy to pull up my blood typing lecture and we can go over that. So anything from chapter 17 or 18 that you have questions on. And I will say for 17, the majority of your questions are going to be somewhere along the lines of all of these hormones that you have to know, and they're all listed in your LOs, of for each one, what organ releases that hormone? So you're gonna have a lot of questions. TRH is released from what organ? or what gland? Oh, that's going to be the hypothalamus. TSH is released from what gland? That's going to be the anterior pituitary. Thyroid hormone is released from which gland? Oh, that's the thyroid gland. What is the target of TRH? Well, the target of TRH, it leaves the hypothalamus and it targets the anterior pituitary. What does it do when it gets there? It tells the anterior pituitary to release TSH. You get the idea. So just be prepared, as it was the case on the homework, as it probably was the case on the quiz, depending on which questions you got. There's just a lot of questions on which organ releases this hormone. The pancreas releases which of the following hormones? Insulin targets which of the following glands or cells? Let's see. Go on to any other type of hormone that gets released, of erythropoietin. Which of the following is an effect of erythropoietin? So really make sure that you are repeating and kind of going over those a lot, that you do know pretty well. Okay, let's see here. Let me pull up my slides on this. Okay, can everybody see my PowerPoint images here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So once again, feel free, since I am recording this, for just streamlining purposes, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. And I want to try to get through all of the slides, even though this may not be the best. This is where your study journal could come in. You can make a little note to say, hey, I have a question about that slide, because I want to be able to record and get through it pretty seamlessly, and then we can work back through any questions that you have. So feel free to put something in the chat or just make a note, and when I finish, we can come back to it. So in this slide, we will be covering blood typing. And so the biggest thing with blood typing to start off with is we need to know the basics of the immune system. And it's interesting because obviously there's a lot of similarities between like what we can learn about how a society should function, and we see how our body works together. Our body is made of, say, somewhere around 100 trillion cells that all must work together, even though each cell is very different. So it's kind of like this idea of your body is like a country and it's like a society, that everybody does something a little different. Everybody wants a little something different. Everybody has their own needs, but at the end of the day, everyone needs to work together. When we look at the immune system, that certainly is still the truth, because everybody still has to be on the same team. But we get a little more aggressive here, because with the immune system, we have to understand that there is you and all 100 trillion plus of your body cells, and then there is everyone else. So there is you and everyone else, and your body initially believes that everyone else is the ultimate threat until proven otherwise. So as they say, when it comes to the immune system, your body has a shoot first, ask questions later kind of mentality. Because you have to realize, from your body's standpoint, anything that is not you, anything that is foreign, if it gets inside you, it could be fully damaging. It could destroy you. It could kill you. So you never want to let your guard down and let something foreign in. So you always assume something is bad until proven otherwise. And so that's what we have to understand with the immune system. There is you and there is not you. There is you and there is everyone else. So then the question is, how does your body know which cells are good and which cells are bad? And realize that in this context, good and bad only means you versus not you. So if we're talking about Russell Nolan, The good cells are my cells, anything that is part of my body, and everyone else's are bad. It doesn't matter anything else. If you're foreign, you're bad. So how does your body know this? Well, every cell in your body, whether it's a liver cell, a kidney cell, a white blood cell, a brain cell, skeletal muscle cell, neuroglia, whatever, all cells have markers. And so I like to think of this as the cells of each cell in your body waves a flag. And the flag that you wave determines whose team you are on. Just like you can picture in like a Pirates of the Caribbean style mindset, is like whichever flag that ship is flying is whose team you're on. And so think of all the different countries have different flags. And so everybody who waves the American flag is on the American team. But if you're not waving an American flag, your body's going to assume that you are the enemy. So that's why I say these are the two teams. As far as you are concerned, there are two teams. They're yours and not yours. So there are your cells and there are not your cells. So as we still, sorry, this is going to happen. My computer is very, very sensitive, or I guess my mouse is very, very sensitive. And so when we look at this, still kind of establishing this terminology, using my analogy here, is that the flags are called antigens. And just so you understand, the word antigen comes from anti-generating. So genesis, generating, means creation. Anti means against. So an antigen most specifically means something that your body will create a response against. And so the flags are called antigens. And remember, picture all of those country flags. They're all different types of antigens. The flags that your cells wave are called self-antigens. And the flags that everyone else waves that are not yours are called non-self antigens. So obviously in a healthy body, there's no autoimmune disease. Your immune system will allow self-antigens to function, but it will attack and destroy any non-self antigens. And that's where you see this last point here. Your immune system, specifically your B cells or your plasma cells, produce antibodies. So bodies, substances, bodies are substances, anti-against. So antibodies are substances your body creates against antigens. So your immune system produces antibodies designed to target specific non-self antigens. Obviously, you don't want antibodies to attack self-antigens because then you would have an autoimmune disease. So just as we're working through this, you can see the terminology. So we got to understand antigens, self and non-self, yours and not yours. And then you have antibodies that attack the non-self antigens. So let's get into blood typing specifically. So what is the reason that we need to know what your blood type is? Like, why do we care that you are type A or type B? Well, it's because you may have a time, say in the future, that you need a blood transfusion. Well, a transfusion is putting foreign blood cells into, in this case, into your body. So you're taking blood from someone A, and putting it into someone B. Well, you can see that if we're putting foreign cells into someone's body, then we're setting up to have an immune response. Well, in this case, you don't want an immune response because that person needs that blood. So the reason you want to know a person's blood type is because you want to match the blood type to prevent an immune response. This is the case if you were having an organ transplant. Somebody else's organs, somebody else's cells are being put into yours. You don't want your body to fight that substance, that foreign substance coming in. So then when we get into the blood types, there are two different important groups to look at. And so that is the ABO group, which is the presence or absence of A and or B antigens. And remember, antigens are flags. So the ABO group means your cells either wave an A, they either wave a B, they wave both A and B, or they don't wave any flags. And so that's when we look at the ABO group, there are 4 types. There is type A blood, type B blood, type AB blood, and type O blood. So be very clear here. This is one of those things you just have to memorize in your head first for you to understand the application. There is no AB antigen, and there is no O antigen. So there is no flag with AB written on it, and there's no flag with an O written on it. There is an A flag, there is a B flag. You can wave both, or you can wave none. So that's the ABO group. And then you have the RH group. So think of this concept is the same. I talk about, if ABO, I talk about flags. You're either waving an A, a B, both, or none. RH, you're either wearing the RH hat or you're not. So it has nothing to do with your hands. It's, are you wearing the hat, RH positive, or you're not, RH negative. So RH group, also known as the D antigen, is the presence, or that would be a little typo there, presence or absence of the RH antigen. And so that's why you either add positive or negative. So type A positive, type A negative, and so on. So let's look at the options here. So this is hopefully not extending my analogy too far here. So let's look at flags and guns here. Remember, it's the immune system. Anybody who is not you is treated as a mortal enemy and must be eradicated immediately. So you shoot anyone not on your team. You shoot anyone not waving your flags. So antigens equal flags, antibodies equal guns. And if you take a person, each hand must be holding something. So let me just look at the ABO group now. So if we look here, let's look at type A. Type A means you wave an A flag. If you wave an A flag, B is your mortal enemy. If I wave an A flag and you're waving a B flag, I hate you. I hate you, I want to kill you, I want to eradicate you, no questions asked. So it makes sense that if you were holding an A flag in one hand, then you are going to shoot B bullets from the gun in your other hand. Just hopefully this is obvious. The reason that you don't shoot A bullets is because then your bullets that you shoot would come and seek your own flag and would kill you. So that would be like an autoimmune disease. So that is type A. Type B means you wave a B flag. If you are on the B team, then you hate everyone who waves an A flag. So you hold in your other hand a gun that shoots A bullets. As your book says, it'll say like anti-A antibodies, anti-A bullets. So anybody who waves an A flag, you hate, you eliminate immediately. That would be type B. And then we have type AB, meaning that in one hand you wave an A flag, in the other hand you wave a B flag. Well, notice if both of your hands are waving flags, then you are like the ultimate pacifist because you have no hands to hold a gun. So you are on the A team, you are on the B team. You obviously can't shoot any bullets because if you were to shoot a bullet, it would come around and hit you. So type A and type B, you are the ultimate pacifist. You have no weapons. But obviously everybody hates a pacifist because that means if you wave A and B flags, you are both attacked by A and B equally. And then finally we have type O. Type O is the lone wolf here who waves no flags, which is why he is type O. And if you don't have any flags in your hands, you got to be holding something. So you hold anti-A bullets, you shoot anti-A bullets, and you shoot anti-B bullets. So type O is on nobody's team, so he just goes and attacks everyone. But nobody knows what team he's on because he's not waving any flags. So just a couple more slides here. We'll come back to this slide, but just for the sake of the video, like I said, you can look at this later. We'll come back to it after I get through this, but we can kind of summarize. So one of you was asking questions about, like on the Learn Smart, how do you keep track of this? And so we can come back to this and we'll fill this in. And then here would be the the non-analogy summary of everything. So blood types and reactions. The immune system will produce antibodies against the blood type you don't have. So if we look here, type A, type B, type AB, and type O. So if this row are the antigens, so in this case, this red blood cell has type A, this blood cell has type B, so circles and triangles. Type AB has both, type O has none. So you can see if you are type A, then you produce antibodies that attack triangles. If you are B, you have triangles on your cells, you hate circles, so you produce antibodies that attack circles. If you're AB, you don't produce any antibodies, because if you did, you would attack yourself. And then type O, you don't wave any flags, you have no antigens, but you then produce both antibodies because you are teamless. You can go and attack whomever you want. And then we have these review questions that we can go over as well. So that kind of will finish off the lecture. And I know that that was pretty quick. Normally I'd like to have more question response there. But as we've gone through it, let's go back to this. And everybody here, just spend a little bit of time seeing if you can fill in these blanks. I don't know if they're too general in the way that they're reading, but this should be the summary of everything we went over, just to kind of, as a quick little check to make sure, did you kind of follow, or can you figure out what it is? So take a couple of minutes and see if you can fill in these blanks. And hey, better yet, try to fill it in just with your brain, as in don't go back and look at any notes or anything, and see how well you do. So just take a little bit of time and see if you can fill those in. You need to take him?
No, it's fine. I just sent the monitor down.
It did.
Oh, okay.
There's my wife. And that's Lucas.
Maybe let's see what introduces it.
Let's see, so it's 3:03. I'll give you 2 more minutes. So at 3:05, I'll open it up for some questions and we can kind of go over this. Okay, about another minute. Okay, so I'll go ahead and answer it, and then just trust that if you didn't get them right, that you will ask me a question and we can go from there. So type A blood wants to eliminate any blood cells waving B flags, so it produces anti-B antibodies. Type B blood wants to eliminate any blood cells waving A flags, so it produces anti-A antibodies. Type AB blood waves both flags, so A and B flags, so it produces no antibodies. And by no antibodies, of course, we're talking about no A or B antibodies, because you're going to have antibodies against every other sort of pathogen that exists. And then type O blood waves no flags, so it produces both antibodies, or both type A and type B. So now, what questions do you have on this? And I know that I didn't specifically go over RH, but it's in the review questions at the end. So I'm not done with RH yet. But any questions that you have on what we went over? Of course, I will take your silence as affirmation that you have thoroughly understood everything that there is to know about blood typing, and my work here is done. If you want to, you can go ahead and spend some time looking at these review questions. This also gives you an idea if I were to include any short answer questions on your exams. I like to pull from these type of review questions, pretty open-ended, but give you kind of multi-part questions that you can go through. So give you just a couple minutes, say about 3 minutes, if you want to look over these review questions and see if you have any follow-up on that. And this is where I will cover and talk about RH. Okay, so let me just real quick go over RH, which, like I said, we've already done the core concept, is that you have an RH antigen and you have RH antibodies. So let's just forget about type A, B, and O for right now. Let's just look at RH. So if you wear the RH hat, then you are friends with everyone who also wears the RH. Well, that means that if you wear the RH hat, you will not produce anti-RH antibodies, because those would turn around and kill you. And so if your options are having the RH antigen or producing the RH antibody or the anti-RH antibody, only those who are Rh negative would produce the anti-Rh antibody, because only those who don't have the antigen would produce the bullets or shoot the bullets that would attack Rh. Because if you're not on the Rh team, you hate all those who are of the Rh team. So if you don't wear a hat, you hate people who wear hats, and you will eliminate them with extreme prejudice. And so if you wear a hat, you obviously aren't going to shoot anything, any anti-Rh bullets, because it would turn around and hit you. And you go, well, why don't the hat wearers produce something to attack the non-hat wearers? Well, that's exactly why, because they don't wear a hat. So there's nothing to target. If you don't have the antigen, then there's nothing to target. And so when you look at this first question, you have A positive blood. What antibodies do your white blood cells produce? Well, you are type A, so that means that you hate B. So let's separate the letter from the sign. If you're A, you hate B, so you will produce anti-B antibodies, but you will not produce anti-Rh antibodies, because if you did, it would turn around and hit you, because you are a hat wearer. You have Rh antigens. So of course you could just Google which blood type is considered the universal donor, but we want to apply the concept here. The universal donor would be someone who has a blood type that is the slipperiest, that has nothing to connect onto, to latch onto. So the universal donor would be somebody who doesn't have antigens, who waves no flags. Nobody knows whose team you're on. So in that case, it would be O negative, because O negative waves no A flag, waves no B flag, waves no Rh flag. The universal recipient is of course going to be AB positive, because the recipient is somebody who produces and shoots no bullets. And since AB positive waves A flags, waves B flags, and waves Rh flags, it doesn't produce or shoot any bullets, or else it would attack itself. So to understand donor and recipient, you've got to understand who's waving flags, who's got those antigens, and then what bullets do you shoot. So then somebody was asking about Rh and different people. So it is possible, hemolytic disease of the newborn, it is possible that mom's blood type is not compatible with baby in utero's blood type. Since the Rh antibodies can cross the placenta, that means if mom is Rh negative and the child is Rh positive, you could produce antibodies that would go through the placenta and destroy those body cells, which would be a problem. And this is always of a second pregnancy, because the first pregnancy, you're not aware there's an enemy. Then you give birth to that Rh positive child, and your body goes, whoa, where did those foreign cells come from? Let's produce some antibodies so we're ready next time. So if the same pattern happens the second time, that's when you could have hemolytic disease of the newborn, but you have shots that you can take that can prevent this. So blood typing is good. Okay, that was a lot. As we close out here, what questions do you have on blood typing? And so for those of you who did ask specific questions, did this help address anything that you had?
Yes, it was good.
Okay, good. Anybody else, any other final questions? I mean, I know we don't have the time, obviously, for me to do a whole nother lecture, but also email me if you want me to do a video on something, or if I have enough people that email me and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this concept. I'm happy to record videos just like this. Even if we don't meet for Zoom, I can record it and get it posted. So please, 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 feedback with me is always best. Do not ever hesitate to email me, and you never need to apologize to email me or ask me any questions. So anything final that you would like to go over or like me to address before we officially close this out? Okay, of course, if you do have any questions and you want to meet one-to-one over Zoom, please reach out. We will probably not have a Zoom next week, and I'll put this in an announcement because your test window will be open. And if we met for a Zoom, you would end up just asking me questions on the exam, which I wouldn't then answer. But that doesn't mean that I'm not available to answer any questions. We just won't have a class-wide Zoom. So I'll get that information on the exams posted to you as soon as I get it written, and we'll go from there. So thank y'all for taking the time to meet. It is nice to meet you, at least virtually, and hopefully we'll make the best of this semester as we can, and learn something and have a little bit of fun along the way, everybody. So y'all have a good afternoon.